Okay, so this is a role play of a heads of terms sign-up meeting, okay? So let me set the scene. You've got all the data up there, so the property's worth 250. You've got an unencumbered property. I'm reading the red bits. You've got a 4-bedroom, huge semi-detached. This is a real deal that we've done. Tony, this is going to be your property. Shane, you're the investor, you're me.
I'm the vendor, you told me.
Yeah, you're the vendor, yeah, and he's going to be the investor, correct. And market rent, market value is $550 a month. Tony, you want to move out as soon as possible. You want to move down to your bungalow that you've built in your daughter's back garden. It's been on the market for 2 years, it's not sold, and basically you're wedded to 250 grand because you've got 5 children and you've promised them 50 grand each because you've worked your socks off to pay this for this house. The deal, so you've already negotiated this, Shane, and the deal that you've negotiated with Tony is you're going to give him 15 grand now. You're going to pay him £580 a month interest on the balance. So the balance, 250 minus 15 is 235. So you're going to pay him 580 every month for 15 years, 180 months, and then you're going to pay him the 235. So that's all been done, okay? So he's been in your front room now for about an hour and a half.
Right.
He's had a walk round, you've negotiated all this, and he says, yeah, that works for me, I'm happy, okay?
Okay.
And now you need to close. So this is really important to everyone. If this was a B&B purchase, how do you close? What do you do to close a below market value purchase? If the guy had said, yeah, it's worth 250, I'll take 180 for it now, how would you close? Sign up paperwork, yeah? So you trot out to your car, you get your pound, you get your sign up pack, you come back and you go through the sign up pack. How do you close a control now, pay later deal? Which is what we have here.
Heads of terms, the same as
Heads of terms, 100%. So you don't bother with your sign-up paperwork. Now here's the question, are your heads of terms legally binding?
Well, they are if he signs them.
No, they're not, even though he signs them. Which raises a good question. Why, do you disagree with me? Yeah, you disagree with me because written contract where 2 people sign normally would hold water, right? I think it's safer. Legally, you might be right, Ian. I think it's safer though to not rely on them because I would never want to go to court and go, Mr. Smith here, who's 75 years old, no longer wants to sell his property on amazingly favourable terms to me. This is a 94% loan to value mortgage, fixed at 3% for 15 years. Go show me where I can get that as a buy-to-let mortgage. It's impossible. So the judge is going to look at this one bit of paper and he's going to say, so Mr. Smith, did Mr. Flegg give you the opportunity to speak to your lawyer about this? I don't have a lawyer. Really? You did this without a lawyer? Yes. Okay. Did he give you a cooling off period? No. Did you take legal advice? No. He's just going to throw it out. So that's why I wouldn't rely on it, okay? However, we do get him to sign the heads of terms and we sign it. Why then?
Because it gives him the impression, that this is a deal.
It's more of a commitment from him, you're absolutely right. It's more of a commitment. If he's put his signature down, now he's invested in it. And if he's uncomfortable, if he's not sure, he's going to tell you before he signs. The last thing you want is, yeah, that'll work. So you go and do a load of work and then he says, actually, I've changed my mind.
Are we not likely to take that down to a solicitor to get that drawn up then, no?
No.
I thought
you take the heads of terms to the solicitor.
That's what I'm saying, yeah, there has to be
exactly.
Heads of terms,
but what you don't want to do is today go, well, congratulations, Mr. Smith. The lawyers have been in touch because then the lawyers don't know what the agreement is. So you want to do as much work as possible for the lawyers and you want to make it as simple as possible. Now this is where people go wrong with heads of terms. Complexity conundrum again. They make the heads of terms as legal as possible. You want these heads of terms to be like 5, 6, 7 bullet points on one sheet. And you're absolutely right, they're almost all on there. But what I want to do in role play now is how do you do this with him, okay? And I'm just going to keep stopping you every time I see something that's good or every time I see something that should be improved.
Okay, just one thing before when these are signed, right?
Yeah.
And it was on a podcast or something.
I love that you listen to my podcast.
They go to.
If you're watching the YouTube, by the way, you should listen to the podcast as well. Yes.
They go to both. The same sheet goes to both solicitors.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's absolutely correct. Yeah. We'll come to that in a moment.
And they don't have to use one of our solicitors.
No one ever has to use any of our solicitors. They can use whomever they like. However, if they go to a solicitor who doesn't deal in sophisticated transactions very often, it's highly likely to fall over because the solicitor's going to be scared of it, is not going to be familiar with these kind of transactions, and he's going to be so scared that they scare their client.
Okay.
Shane, go ahead, sir.
Okay, Mr. Burdett. I've spent this last 2 hours.
You wouldn't be called Mr. Burdett, I'm sure.
All right,
Go.
I'll call you Tony then. Yeah, so can we, at this stage then, we've agreed basically in principle what the deal is and what we're going to agree on. So can we actually get this down onto paper now, basically, so we all are clear on the way going forward? Are you happy enough with that? Yeah?
Yes, certainly.
Okay, right. Well, listen, first thing obviously is we will establish...
So let me pause, okay? Not bad, but could be better, right?
I was trying to do an Indian accent, but I didn't say what.
What does this mean? And then putting these on. What does? Oh my goodness, I can't see anything. That means I'm blind as a bat. No, but apart from that, for me, that's quite significant. We're getting down to business. This is serious. We don't want it business-like. We don't want it serious.
I can't see what I'm ready
Well,
with.
keep them on then. Keep them on. Right, this is best practice. Best practice is, Mr. Smith, what we need to do now, I'm delighted. Congratulations, by the way. I'm delighted that we've managed to find a solution here. This is in role play for you, right? What we need to do now is we're just going to jot down a few bullet points. I'm not saying heads of terms. I'm not using legalese, memorandum of understanding. You know, you can lose him in the next 5 minutes. All of this is a sale, right? We're just going to jot down what we've agreed, so that we can then send that off to the solicitors and they'll legalise it, they'll turn it into what they do, you know, they'll make our little page 10 pages so that they can get cracking. Have you got a pen and paper that I can borrow?
Yes, of course.
So he goes and gets his pen and paper. Remember, you're not going to come into a help visit with a pen and paper. You don't want to go out and get a pen and paper, because now we're together. Notice, together, I'd even shuffle round. They're still a bit opposing, aren't they? So I'd shuffle round, and I would actually, obviously, oh, that's lovely, look.
Yeah, I know.
Is that your last help visit? I'm going to show that. Look, this is Tony's help visit note. I love it.
Yeah.
Right, so now I'm going to shuffle around and go, okay, Mr. Smith, so let's jot these down. That's how I would do that. Nothing wrong with what you did, but do you see it's more we're together now? And look how close we are. Look, I'm writing. I'm open. There's nothing hidden about this, okay? All yours.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so a few details that we need to get down and agree on, so we all know where we are and going forward. So first things first, we'll put down the address of the property, and we'll put my name and your name basically as heads of terms, because this will eventually go to a copy of this will go to your solicitor and my solicitor, so they need to know exactly what's going on. Okay, so first of all, so can you give me the address of the property then?
4 Bridge Street.
Okay, and your postcode for that?
BT 70.
I should have that anyway, actually, because you gave me it on the phone before. Okay, so this is an agreement between me and T. Burdett.
Okay, so you want this to be self-explanatory for the solicitors, okay? So my suggestion is you do write heads of terms.
Okay.
At the top, and you're just going to put a few bullet points, and then you're going to get him to sign with the date and name, like that.
Oh, so we'll put that at the end, right?
You do that later.
Yeah.
Do that later. So here, and this is just practice, right? How many have you done?
No, I didn't do heads of terms.
No, and you've done 1. So if you're doing control now, pay later, this is what you do. Every single one is like that. Now obviously you don't do this because he's going to be nervous about signing it, so you do that at the end, but you basically take what you've agreed and jot it down. So what I'd be saying is, I, Frank Flegg, no, you don't do it in the first person, forgive me, Frank Flegg will buy, you're absolutely right, 123 ABC Street from Mr. Tony Smith for, how much am I buying it for?
250.
250, thank you. For 250, now don't put K, because it's simple, yeah? He's not used to K. You don't want him to see anything that he's uncomfortable with. So keep it as simple as about £250,000. That's your first bullet point. Carry on.
Okay. So I'm just stating that Shane McDermott will buy 4 Bridge Street, BT blah blah blah, for the agreed sum of 250,000.
Okay.
Okay, happy enough with that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next thing then will basically go through the details of how I'm going to pay you that money across. Okay. So one of the first things that I'm going to say is the initial 15,000
Yeah,
of a
if you
deposit,
agree to pay me
payment.
up front.
Okay, so we agree to pay 15.
That's perfect. What word is he likely to understand that Shane could use here for the 50 deposit? Most people get deposit a mortgage, and we want to keep it like a normal transaction. You're spot on, mate. So Frank Flegg will pay £15,000 as a deposit. Cool, carry on.
You do write out full sentence, you don't just say
Oh, absolutely.
15,000
No,
deposit.
sentences, because it's written for you.
Right, okay.
Well, it's actually, that's interesting, good point. Who's it written for?
Two sisters.
Who's primarily, who's the most important person in this?
Vendor.
Him, but close second is the solicitors, and he thinks it's also written for our protection. It's absolutely not. It's written for his emotional buy-in to the deal. So you want it really clear and in full sentences for him, but you also want it all the pertinent facts on for the solicitors. Carry on, Shane.
Okay. All right, so that's £15,000 as a deposit. Okay, so the remainder of 235,000, the remaining 235,000 will be paid in 15 years.
Okay, I wouldn't lead with that.
Yeah.
I'd lead with what's in it for him.
Yeah.
That's more
Yeah.
what's in it for us. So
Yeah,
what would
interest.
we? So we've done 15,000. We've done 250 purchase price.
Yeah.
We've done 15 grand deposit. What's the next logical step? It is the 235, but
Yeah.
where's the other 235 coming from? He's lending it.
Yeah.
So £235,000. Now I wouldn't say he's lending it, because what's his first thought going to be? He is lending it, but what's he going to think?
I don't have 235.
I don't have 235 grand. And then it's quite complicated to explain, no, it's a nominal transaction. It doesn't really exist. Oh, whoa, now keep digging, yeah? So you've got to think ahead, and this looks simple, doesn't it? Just writing some heads to terms. Oh, yeah, you said. It's just like that on the board. But actually, there's a lot to this. You have to think through the process. So, £235,000.
You don't use the term mortgage here?
Will be owed. I would just use owed by Frank Flegg. I'd use it in full, but I'm running out of space. By Frank Flegg to Tony Smith. 235,000 will be owed by Frank Flegg to Tony Smith. Full stop. I'm running out of space a little bit. And then I'd move on to interest. What's the interest rate? Because I'm doing what's in it for him, remember?
So, you do go through the 235 first then?
I do.
Okay,
I do the 235, but I'm not talking about paying it in 15 years' time. I do need 2 before I end. I'm not going to run out of bullet points. But what's the interest payment?
580 per month.
Interest
No, interest rate.
of...
Full interest rate.
Okay, this is really interesting. So I did this in England and Wales, did this exact exercise,
3%.
and one of the experienced partners didn't fully understand the deal. You have to fully, because they got to this point and they messed it up. They didn't realise it was vendor finance. They did it as a control now pay later EDC, and that's going to really confuse it. So you thought it was an interest-free loan.
Yeah.
If you were in his shoes now, you've just lost the deal. And that's because it's a complicated deal. Is there interest? There absolutely is. It's about 3% interest, 580 quid a month on, can someone work that out for me, Edward? Can you work it out for me? It's 580 times 12. 580 he was. 580 times 12 divided by 235. 1,000.
Is 0.02. 2, so it's 2.96%.
I thought it was about 3%. It's 3% interest. But we don't want to say 3% interest because that's too complicated for you. We're just saying 580 a month. Interest of 580 is payable. Not is payable. We're not trying to be lawyers. Interest, I would put FF will pay TS. Frank Flegg will pay Tony Smith interest of £580 per month for 15 years. And then what's the next logical bullet point?
The lump sum at the end.
The lump sum at the end, because now it makes sense. Now it's the 235,000 remaining balance. A little bit legalistic, might rephrase that. The 235,000 remaining balance will be paid to Tony Smith at the end of the 15 years. And I think that's largely it. Have we missed anything? If I had a bit more space, you might put one bullet point in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A sixth or seventh one might be, we're responsible for all maintenance and have access to the property. We will rent the property out, we'll maintain it. You could put that in. Anything else we haven't put in there?
Would you not need to have that fact, the fact that he has the right to...
Yeah, you could put that in, but the lawyers are going to put that in, and it's almost unspoken, it's almost like
Oh,
obvious,
right,
like we've
okay,
talked about it.
yeah.
But yeah, I'd run out of space,
Yeah.
but yeah, you could put that in. Let's put it on so you got it.
Oh no, it's alright. Okay.
FF will, now, do I want to say I have the right to rent the property, or would you phrase it in a different way? Ian, you're smiling, why are you smiling?
Because you definitely wouldn't say that.
I definitely wouldn't. How would I phrase it?
We will be renting the property for the 15 years that we, 15 years that we have until we pay it down. Not sure. Or we would be intending to.
How about Frank Flegg will be responsible for all maintenance, what's in it for him, because this is the thing, this house actually had holes in the windows where kids are throwing stones and they weren't going upstairs for it. Frank Flegg will be responsible for all maintenance whilst renting the property. Isn't that a nicer way of saying, I've got access to the keys, I can do this, I can do this. I put it in terms of what's in it for him. Show me how you're going to get him to sign it on that bit of paper.
Okay, so we went through basically everything that we need to know here, and it's all stipulated in your
Yeah, it
happy
seems to be everything. Yeah.
So basically, all that remains now is for both of us to sign this here and just make sure.
And then what happens to that?
2 copies of this go, one to my solicitor and one to your solicitor, so they both know what exactly we have agreed.
Okay.
I'll sign it, you'll sign it, so basically everyone knows that everything that is on this is as it should be.
Okay.
Alright, so I'll sign it here and I'll let you sign it. Just I'm going to sign there where it says TV, that'll be brilliant.
Did you already sign it, Shane?
No.
Who should sign this first? Shane should.
No.
So you lead by example. So you sign, because now the emotion, you date it, and then you draw. So I would actually do it this way. I'd go, okay, so Mr. Smith or Tony, there's my signature. The date today is the 23rd of the 6th, 22. My name is Mr. Frank Flegg. The reason for this is I'm showing him, we're in this together, and then I do, so today's date, I'm helping him out here, 23rd, I always do this, I date it and name it, 23rd of the 6th, 22. Your name is Mr. Tony Smith, and there you go, mate, you just sign there for me, and you're going to obviously, there you go, I actually point to it and hand him the pen. He's going to feel like he wants to sign it with me. Now, we're not trying to hoodwink anyone, but if we're too cautious or nervous about it, it's like, oh, hang on, I've got to sign this. But by showing him I've signed it. Now, you absolutely are right. I love how you said we will do this, etc. You're using we just now. How on earth can you take one bit of paper and send it to 2 sets of solicitors? Matthew's going like this. Just take a photo of it. This isn't legally binding, it makes no odds. So this is what you're going to do. You're actually going to say, right, Tony, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a quick photo of this. There we go, brilliant. That will be emailed to my solicitors, before the end of the day. I'll send it to your solicitors as well, and that is for you to keep so you've got yourself a record. And you think, oh, hang on, I haven't got the wet ink copy. What am I going to do? I don't need it. I don't need it at all. The solicitors have got what they need. They're going to write it up and then ask him to sign the actual contract. So it's fine. But doesn't he feel better that he's got that in paper? Any questions?
Whenever I was going to sign that first,
Yeah.
but I didn't purposely because I thought it was being too pushy. Right? I just signed, you sign it.
No.
You know.
No, that's how I would do it.
Right.
There's no right or wrong here, but there's ways that will work better and ways that will work worse. Now, you might listen to this and go, God, it's very persuasive, Frank. You know, there's a lot of manipulation in that. I'm not manipulating anyone. I'm not persuading anyone. He has asked me to help him. He's been living in this house for 2 years. He's not been able to walk up the stairs. He's got holes in his windows. He's desperate to move to the bungalow that he already owns. He's desperate to hand this house over to me. It's my job to make that as easy and as stress-free as possible. And so it's not pushy, and that's your belief. And if you believe that that's pushy, you're going to push him away, ironically. Whereas if you're sat there thinking, what did we say earlier, I'm the best person in the world to help this guy right now, if you're sat there thinking this, then he's going to sense that. He's going to sense the fact that you're in this to help him. That's why they were baking me cookies and giving my son presents. It's because, you know, they saw us as a team. That's why he phones me up and wishes me a Merry Christmas. 8 years later, he's still phoning me and wishing me a Happy Christmas.